All right, I'm not sure how this is going to work. I'm doing a live on TikTok, and I'm going to try to make this an extra podcast if I can. I'm not recording it on Zoom while I'm doing the TikTok. I'm doing it just on TikTok, and I'm going to see if I can download it and then turn it into something else. I may or may not be able to do that. I'm not sure exactly, but we'll give it a shot. I just got done doing I just got, hold on a second here. I'm trying to invite Eric, but it's not allowing me to do that. Anyway, we're on a TikTok live. I will see what I got here. Um, there we go. Okay. Eric's been invited, apparently. We'll see if Eric shows up on here or not. But we're doing a live, and we're going to talk about some of the things that have been going on, some of the crazy fucking shit that's going on. Looks like Eric's popping up here. Hey, Eric, how you doing?
Good. How about you, Mike?
I'm doing all right. You just got off a live, didn't you?
Yes, I did.
So you haven't had enough, and you decided to come on with me here.
Yep.
Perfect. Well, thank you. What kind of things were you talking about on your live? I mean, we got a lot of things coming. This guy that murdered the CEO was arrested. Were you surprised by that?
A little bit. I didn't know for sure if they would get him or not.
I thought they might not get him. I thought they might not, and it just seems weird to me. Doesn't it seem weird to you that what they went through, what this person went through, and how organized it was, and how he was trying to divert and distract, that they catch him in Pennsylvania, Altoona, in a McDonald's, just sitting there having a Big Mac. He's got the gun and the suppressor with him. That just seems weird. I mean, if you commit a murder, first thing you do is get rid of the weapon, so you got nothing coming back to you. I this kid seems to be a very smart kid. Why would you do that?
No, I don't. That doesn't make sense to me as to why they got him. And the whole thing ends up being just ridiculous. Like you said, they catch him at a Big Mac or at a McDonald's eating a Big Mac. Jesus Christ. You know,
Yeah.
he was smart enough to keep his face covered most of the time and everything else. So who knows?
We're getting some people coming in here. Ms. Maddie says, "Good evening." Hey, Ms. Maddie, how you doing? What else we got? Hi, Mike from Fredonia, New York. Nice to hear from you. Um, did he want to get caught? I don't know. I heard somebody say that he did something on YouTube that was scheduled to come out at some later date, and it basically said, "If you're seeing this, I've been arrested. Don't worry, it's all in order." I don't know if that's even true. There's so much bullshit that's in the media right now. You don't know what to trust or what to believe.
Yeah, I don't. I have no idea there. Um, if he does have something out there and this was part of the plan, I would be very curious to see what his big plan is.
Yeah, absolutely. If there is one. We got Coach Mox from Charlotte, North Carolina. Hi, Mike from Illinois. Altoona is Hicksville and Redneck land. Well, that's ironic. That's interesting. I've heard some things too that his family is tied to some healthcare type things. They're dealing with people in their end of life, and they have a fairly good reputation. But apparently, places like United Health are buying up all these family-owned properties. That may be some basis for why he was upset. You know what? We've got so much shit going on in this country. I'm not really that concerned about it. It's the biggest story on television. But with some of the things that Donald Trump is saying and the way people are feeling about it, I don't think we can really waste too much time on this situation. This is one guy, one murder, and we've got people dying throughout the country because of some of the fucking dystopian things that Donald Trump and the and MAGA. Am I insensitive for not giving a fuck?
No, I kind of agree with you. There's some bigger things I mean, Donald Trump says egregious shit every day. You got the people around him saying egregious shit every day. Um, you got Donald Trump this morning setting out that weird message on Truth Social saying Democrats want to get rid of the popular vote and only go with the Electoral College. Well, Jesus Christ. Um, that's what Democrats want, the popular vote. They want to get rid of the Electoral College. They would love that.
Exactly.
If we had the popular vote, we would have had Al Gore as president. We would have had the popular vote. Donald Trump wouldn't have won in 2016. That's what we want.
I had a weird day yesterday. I did my regular podcast, the email podcast, and then I had a Trump humper who had been on my Rational Boomer podcast some time ago, wanting me on his podcast, and he seemed pretty positive about himself because Donald Trump won. He thought he would have the upper hand. So I went and did his podcast. But here's the thing. He's a Trump humper. So he couldn't figure out how to send me a Zoom link. So I said, well, I'll just send you a Zoom link. I do this every fucking day. It's no big deal. So we hook up on the Zoom link. He starts it out as if it's his show. And it didn't go well. If you haven't heard that interview, it's kind of cathartic. It's hard to listen to because I pretty much pound on this guy, but it was so healing for me because I got a lot of anger out and I had no sympathy for this clown and he had fucking nothing, which I knew would be the case, but I felt so much better.
Yeah, I heard about it. I was talking to TJ before I went live. He was telling me about it. He's like, if you haven't checked it out, you need to. And I'm like, well, did Mike get to record it for himself or was it only on that dude's page? He goes, no, Mike's got it up over on his. I'm like, okay, I'll check it out later. I just haven't had a chance to see it, but it's got to be good.
It is good. I mean, put it this way. The reason I did it was not to make myself look good or smart, because that's not hard to do against any Trumplefuck. But I really wanted to illustrate what we're up against, how ignorant, how stupid, how uneducated these people are. And once you realize how stupid they are, it's hard to be afraid of them, knowing that we can go forward and kick their ass at will. I would love to, I would put this out there. I'll talk to any Trumplefuck from Donald Trump on down, and I will do the same thing to them that I did in this particular segment, because they don't have anything. This kid, all he could ever say was, well, they won the election, or prices were high. But when I had him explain anything or try to show us any substance, there was fucking nothing. And that's from Donald Trump all the way down. It's just all rhetoric. It's all bullshit.
Yeah, and that's typical of Republicans. They don't have a plan, and anything that
No.
they do have for a plan is nothing good. It's all bad.
Yeah. Yeah.
They want to cut $2 trillion from the federal spending. Okay. But then I think it was Rand Paul was saying, well, defense is off the table. Okay, so we can't touch defense spending. Then he named out 3 more things that were off the table that you couldn't cut. He goes, that basically leaves cutting from Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, food stamps, welfare, Department of Education. And that's the only way you can get that type of a cut done. Rand Paul is out here saying this shit.
Yeah. Yeah, I wanted to talk about Donald Trump because over and above the CEO getting killed and this kid getting caught, Donald Trump was on Meet the Press on Sunday. And he did what he always does. He says some stupid things. He was asked about this birthright citizenship. Now, I don't know if people understand what that is, but birthright citizenship amounts to if 2 immigrants have a baby in this country, if you're born in this country, you are a citizen of the United States. And that's a right protected by the Constitution, the 14th Amendment. And Donald Trump was suggesting that he would send back people with birthright citizenship and denaturalize people. What people have to understand is this has nothing to do with the border. These people are already here. This has something to do, the only thing it has to do with is racism. We're talking about Donald Trump as a racist. We're talking about anybody that supports Donald Trump as a racist. And it's as simple as that. And still, there are people clapping for this and supporting it. It's sad to see how many racists we have in this country.
Well, yeah, it is rooted in racism. And if Donald Trump were to somehow get rid of the 14th Amendment, which I have said numerous times on your podcast, on my lives, they don't have the votes to do it. But if they were to somehow do it, where do you draw the line? Where do you draw the line at you have to have parents born here? You know, what about the kid who got adopted at birth, who doesn't know who his biological parents even are, can't prove who his parents were, but he was born on American soil? Is he no longer a citizen? What about, Donald Trump? His parents weren't citizens. I think they got their citizenship later. They were naturalized. Yeah. His kids have their citizenship from birth. None of his wives, as far as I know, they weren't. I think they were here on green cards. I'm not sure if they didn't have birthright citizenship. So where do you draw the line? But no, it's like you said. It's only about racism. It's only about the people coming across the border and their descendants.
Well, I just want to say this. S. Semp says, "Hi, Mike, from your Minnetonka neighbor. We are literally neighbors. I could probably step outside my door and throw a rock and hit Minnetonka. I'm not that close, but nice to see you, S. Semp." Kinder says, "How can I join you, Boomer Mike?" Well, here's the deal. I don't typically take guests on here because I've done that way back when, and it always goes south. Reason I took Analytical Iowa, Eric here, is because he's been on my show a number of times, and I'm doing this in a little more impromptu way. So I may take another guest here, but I really need to know who you are because I've been burned by that a couple of times. I need to have some kind of idea who you are. Downtown Dasher says, "What is the name of your podcast?" Oh, you're going to love this. This is absolutely as creative as you could possibly be. It's called the Rational Boomer Podcast, and you can get it, the audio version on Spotify or the YouTube video version on YouTube. So it's Rational Boomer Podcast. I sat up for 3 nights trying to come up with that name, and I'm so proud of how brilliant I fucking was. Downtown Dasher says, "What podcast were you on?" Here's the deal. I was supposed to be on this Trump Humpers podcast, and I ended up recording it because he couldn't. I pretty much destroyed the guy like I did the first time, and I felt so good. In some parts of me, it felt like kicking a puppy because it wasn't even fair. But if you want to find that podcast, I posted it earlier today on YouTube and on Spotify. It's called Opposition Extra. Just check it out there. You'll be able to hear it. It's about 45 minutes. And the way it ended was fun because as we're talking, going back and forth, finally he just clicked out of his own fucking show. I think I made him mad.
Good. They deserve it. Oh, goodness.
Okay, here's one from Hillbilly that says Trump 24. And you're blocked because this is no place for Trump humpers. We're talking with multi-syllabic words and you'll never catch it. So,
yeah, we're speaking at above the 6th grade level. They're in trouble.
Yeah, they're in trouble. Let's see. Latrice says they can never answer questions. They only have concepts. Yeah, I tend to agree with you, Latrice. They're not much on substance. Great Captain is here, and TJ the Plumber. They are moderators. Great Captain says, "Please ignore the trolls like their parents did. Mods will handle it." Yes, they will. Thank you. And if they miss one, here's a guy I just blocked. He says, Democrats are jealous or jellicus, because he spelled jealous, JELLICOUS. Donald Trump must love you, uneducated motherfucker.
Yeah. TJ's pulling double duty because he modded for me earlier.
Yeah, I know. He loves doing this stuff. I mean, he's got a mean streak in him. He was the first one I sent a text to and said, "Hey, you got to listen to this." I had the Trump humper on. He goes, "I can't fucking wait."
Yeah, he told me about it,
Uh,
and I said the same thing.
let's see here. Chuck Kissberry. They have secretly asked for help because they don't want to admit they're totally lost for answers. Yeah, what do you think about that, Eric? Do you think people are coming to that fuck around and find out moment? I think when I talked to this Trumplefuck yesterday, I made some points and he looked at me like, I never heard that. I never understood that. Do you think people Trumplefucks are even smart enough to come to the realization that now they might be in trouble? Like I told this Trump humper, I said, look, man, I'm a retired guy. My life is pretty well set. I got 15 to 20 years left. I'm not worried about me. I'm worried about my kids and my grandkids. But you're a younger guy and you have a young family. You know what's going to happen is you're going to get fucked and it's not going to be pleasant.
Yeah. I think it's going to come down to when do they find out on their own? When do they get bit on their end? Um, when things come back and they start getting hurt, prices go up. Oh shit, they're going to go, whoa. I mean, Donald Trump did meet the press yesterday, and he said
Right.
he was asked, "Can you guarantee that prices are going to go down with your tariff plan?" He goes, "I can't guarantee that," and I think
He
that's going to
sure
be one.
seemed he sure seemed confident of it before the election. But
Yeah,
that's the thing is, well, and this guy would say to me, he said, I said, what are you going to do when the shit goes crazy and the prices go up? And the only thing he could say to me is, what happens if they don't? I said, well, when we talk about tariffs, we've had some historical data on it. We know what's going to happen. It's not going to get better. Donald Trump doesn't have an idea to make things better. So they're going to come to a realization. Coach Mock says, was his wife born here? As far as I know, he was. Um, what about people who adopted from other countries? That's a good question. How do they come into play? I know people that have adopted children who are adults now from Korea. Are they affected by this? I don't know.
yeah. Well, I did a little bit of looking into that for somebody else. With the adopted from Korea thing, South Korea passed a law in 2010, I think it
Right.
was, which allows adults who are adopted at babies to be able to. There's a whole process now where they can at any age get their citizenship back. So they have a potential to get their Korean citizenship back, but they still don't know anybody over there. They don't have family over there. They have no connections. But if they would need to go back to Korea, you know, at least there's an option. But what's the whole like? But if they want to deport them, they're still here legally. They were adopted by American citizens. I don't think. I think most of what he wants to do is going to take Congress, and I just don't think it passes through this Congress. Maybe if they had a bigger margin in both chambers, but not with as narrow as it is.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you. I think people are worried about the most drastic things happening, and I don't know that Donald Trump can pull it off. I mean, Donald Trump has another problem. He's absolutely incompetent. If you want to think about what he was able to do during his first term, he didn't get much accomplished. He did talk about deportation in his first term. He deported 1.5 million people. That's a lot of people, but Obama deported a lot more than that. So you got to understand what he's about. He's about making noise, talking shit, making threats, and hope you demur to his threats. I mean, he tried that in Mexico. When he went down to Mexico, he says we're going to put tariffs on. He goes down and talks to President Scheinbaum and comes back and said, "Well, I think she's going to do everything I told her because she was scared." And then he was going to probably say, "Well, I don't have to do tariffs now." That's what he's looking for is a way out. And then, of course, Scheinbaum comes out and says, that's bullshit. Nothing's changed, and made him look like a fool. He didn't strike back at her. I mean, he is kind of here and there, but he doesn't like pushback. He may try to be tough, but he doesn't like the fucking pushback. He's a coward for all intents and purposes.
Well, did you see he was joking at some point? He claims he was joking with Trudeau, and then I think he was talking about the tariffs in Mexico and saying that we could make either one our 51st state.
I mean, that's so stupid. This guy isn't a serious guy. He's a fucking
No,
absolute idiot.
no. I mean, besides, if they were, I know it would never happen, but if Mexico did ask to join the United States, with the size of just Mexico. Same with Canada. It wouldn't be one state. It'd end up having to be multiple.
Yeah, absolutely.
On the off chance if they were to ever do it. But he said, well, we give them, how did he put it? He's like, well, what word did he use? We support their economy or something. I can't remember the exact word, but because we're in a trade deficit with them, we buy more of their stuff than they buy of ours, so we're propping their economy up. Is basically what he said. I just can't remember what phrase he used a specific term for it, but yeah, he said that was one of his reasons why. Well, if they don't want any more support like that from us, maybe we should just make them our 51st state.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's just Donald Trump talking shit. As Seb says, I'll be interested to find out what Luigi's motive was. Not smart enough to lay low for a while. Yeah, that's what we were talking about before. Here's a guy that obviously planned everything out, and then he gets caught in McDonald's. That's just weird. There's got to be more to the story. Um, um, let's see here. TJ the plumber, you can take me, LOL. I don't know what he means by that.
Oh, he could join as
Um,
another guest.
yeah. Well, we could
No,
do that if he
subsidize. That
wants
was the word I
to,
was
but
looking for. He said we could subsidize. We subsidize them. That's what he said.
yeah. See, that's the thing is Donald Trump thinks he's the biggest tough guy as a human, and he thinks America is the most powerful, and anybody would be grateful to be accepted into the fold here. And frankly, right now, under Donald Trump's command, we are not the greatest country in the world. We're probably the most embarrassing country in the world as long as Donald Trump is opening his fucking orange mouth.
Yeah. And a lot of people talk about his legacy and things like that. I'm like, well, right now, depending on how bad his next term is, if it's anything like his first, historians already say he is the 45th worst president out of 45 people to hold the job. I
Yeah, no
mean,
shit.
he is considered worse than William Henry Harrison, whose only claim to fame was giving a 3-hour speech in the rain on his inauguration day, catching pneumonia, and dying. He died a month later, and he is still ranked higher than Donald Trump. That is embarrassing.
It is absolutely embarrassing, and Donald Trump is embarrassing. Kinder says, understandable, Mike. I'll be here for more of your live shows. I'm a true Trump hater. Um, yeah, I'm tempted to take somebody else. I'm doing this show totally different than or this live normally. Normally I do it myself, and normally I record it and then I run it on the podcast and stuff. I have a podcast for tomorrow. I may try to download this and put it up, but I'm tempted to take somebody else just for the fuck of doing it, you know. And there is a guy. I'm trying to find him now. Maybe okay. TJ the plumber wants to come in. I'll take him because I know what I'm going to fucking get with that. We'll see what TJ has to say. And I'll maybe get somebody
I'm
else
here.
too. TJ, how you doing?
I'm good.
TJ the plumber is a moderator on my lives, so I'm going to accept you on here, but don't short shift us on the moderation. You know what the fuck's going on out there.
Well, hey, listen, Gray Captain, if you can hear me, like, fill my spot because I can't do much when I'm live here. Wait, yes, I
So,
can. I do. I still can mod. Okay.
all right, perfect. So TJ is a gentleman from Pennsylvania. He's works in labor. You were telling me that you got like 40 plus inches of snow. It's got to be fucked up where you're at.
Well, we're lucky right now because the temperature warmed up a little bit. We did get 5 feet of snow in like 72 hours, but it warmed up a little bit, and now it's raining. So some of that snow is starting to melt. So we're good.
Wow.
No,
Um,
thank you.
TJ is like a lot of guys that I have on the show. Eric's pretty even temper. I'm pretty even temper. But you, TJ, when he comes on, he's going to come on the podcast at sometime soon. You guys get a little fired up. I had a young man on tonight. His name is Jay from California. He's going to Canada to go to college. He's tired of this shit. He's 20 years old. There's a lot of people fired up out there, and you are one of them, aren't you, TJ?
Yeah, that's right. I'm not quite as like on fire as Will, but I'm pretty close.
Yeah. What do you think about this? A queen of CGVs. That's not a good sign. Guidance violations. It says if Trump thinks he can bully Canada and Mexico, he's got another thing coming. I tend to agree. You know, we're this big country, but I don't think Canada and Mexico are going to take shit from Donald Trump. Do you?
Absolutely not. Why would they? Like they have all their other deals with other countries. They like I know it'll hurt them to not have a deal with us, but in reality, it's not going to be that big of a deal because they deal with all the other countries. They do commerce with all the other countries. Why would they balk at that? Like, if we put tariffs on them, how bad is that going to be for us and them? It's going to be terrible.
Yeah, yeah. Somebody says something here for both of you. Will it make a difference worrying about Trump? After a Supreme Court decision, he can do whatever he wants. And I think that's a mistake to think that, in spite of the fact it's Donald Trump and the Supreme Court is who the Supreme Court is. The Supreme Court can only enforce existing law. They don't make laws. So Congress really has to allow Donald Trump to do anything he wants before the Supreme Court can even address that situation.
Well, that Supreme Court decision was, it said for any official acts. So granting a pardon, like Joe Biden did with Hunter, the granting a
Right.
pardon, they can't arrest him for issuing a pardon. They can't arrest him for signing a bill. But now, if he tried to say, as of today, Congress just doesn't exist, well, that's not a power that the president has. His immunity doesn't go that far. It's
Yeah.
only things that he already has the powers to do. That's where people get a little confused. And at the end of the day, Congress still has the ultimate check. They can impeach and remove him. And I've been saying, if it gets bad enough where they can't get reelected, they are going to impeach and remove him themselves. Republicans will get involved and remove him if they're in the majority in Congress and they think it affects them getting reelected in the midterms or in 2028.
TJ, what you're fired up. I know that, and a lot of us are fired up. There are a lot of people going into the next 4 years terrified to say we're doomed and the world is going to end and democracy's gone. I get the feeling you're not kind of in that same camp. You're a little more of a fighter.
Yeah, I agree with that. And there's a lot of fuck around and find out that's going on right now, Mike. Like, look at the steel workers in Pittsburgh. They thought they were going to get a great deal back in Trump, and guess what happened? Trump said, "I'm not supporting Nippon taking on U.S. Steel," and that's a big deal because Nippon was going to invest billions of dollars into that plant. I live near that plant, and they were going to invest billions of dollars into that plant, and now Donald Trump's saying, "I'm not supporting it." Like, he turned his back. He promised them that, and he turned his back on them, and that is an absurdity. Like, I just can't understand why labor would ever even decide to back him based upon his record. His record with labor is terrible. It's been when he was president in the last term, he totally screwed up everything with the building trades. unions. It was an absolute abhorrent. Everything that he did was it was ridiculous. We had to fight and fight and fight as a union, as unions and union labor. It totally destroyed us.
Let me ask you this, TJ. You work in labor. You're in Pennsylvania. What are the attitudes, right? What are the people who voted or supported Donald Trump? What are they thinking now after hearing something that could be devastating to them? Do they finally realize that they fucked up, or are they still trapped into the mystique of Donald Trump?
No, they're still trapped in it, Mike, because it's too fresh. The problem is it's too fresh, and they haven't felt the consequences of what's about to happen. They don't know. They don't understand it. They have no idea what's about to happen. I do, because I know. Like, the last time he was president, it was bad. This time it's going to be 10 times worse for labor. And I wouldn't be surprised if they try to pass national right to work.
Right. Well, Eric and I have talked about this before. I get the feeling that some of these people are so slow-footed, simple-minded, that until they get bit in the ass, they won't realize they're getting fucked. They can't look past the end of their nose. It's not going to be until they have to pay higher prices or they don't do this deal with Nippon Steel. What do you think about? Do you think they don't have the ability to really comprehend what's happening until it actually hits them?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. They're never going to understand it until it hits their pocketbook. That's what I tell everybody. Like, you don't understand when you vote for your pocketbook. And what Donald Trump's policies are, in regards to Project 2025, he's going to use Congress to legislate, or try to use Congress to legislate policies that will defeat labor unions. And
Right.
until it happens, until it hits them, at that point it's too late. If these policies come into effect and we get national right to work, or we get, anti-labor legislation through Congress, it's too late then. And by the time it hits them, they have already been past that. There's no way they can rescind that. I mean, it's just really ridiculous.
This question for Eric. To me, partially, I'm hoping a couple things that are bad happen quickly, so people feel that pain right away, so that when it comes to 2026, the midterms, we can get that change. I mean, people forget about what happened in 2017 to 2021 with Donald Trump. That could be the only explanation as to why they voted for him again. They forgot how bad it was. They forgot 1 million people died of COVID. I'm kind of hoping he makes a couple missteps right up the front. And yes, it'll be painful, but I think in the long run, it will help us to get rid of these motherfuckers. What do you think?
I think it would. But if it's too close to him taking office, the problem is America's short-term memory loss. They have huge short-term memory problems when it comes to elections. They forget things really quickly. It almost needs to be 6 to 9 months out from the election for them to feel like maybe a couple things early and a couple things close to the election where they really feel the effects, so it's fresh in their minds when they go to vote.
Yeah. Now, so Tiffany Hensley says this. He's not going to do anything except a small number in terms of deportation, and then put in the media like he did something big.
Can I respond to that?
Before. Yeah, absolutely. That's something he's done before. He talks big, and then he acts like he had a win. That's what he was trying to do with Mexico and the president there. And that's how he does everything. Go ahead, TJ.
Yeah, everybody. Well, I told Eric, I told a bunch of people about this whole situation with mass deportation. It's absolutely ridiculous. And here's what's going to happen. Donald Trump is going to make a big spectacle on media. He's going to show all these videos about deporting all these people. He's going to show them in handcuffs. He's going to show ICE or the military or whatever he's going to do. He's going to show them being arrested and shoved into concentration camps or whatever the hell he's going to do. And then here's what's going to happen. He's only going to deport 50,000 people. And then he's going to go on to media, our mass media that does us so much favors, right? He's going to go on to mass media and he's going to say, I deported 50 million illegal immigrants when he only deported 50,000. It's all a show. It's all a fake. It's all bullshit. He's not going to do anything. Like this whole mass deportation thing, he's going to, first of all, they're disingenuous about how many illegals are in this country. They say it's 25 million people. That's an absolute lie. It's only 11 million maximum, right? So he's going to say, oh, I deported 50 million people and now the country is good and now the country is safe. It's all going to be for show. It's all going to be a big lie. Everything about Donald Trump is a big lie, and everybody here knows it.
Well, here's the problem with the intellect of the people in this country. This comes from somebody who says, Canada has the same population as California. It could be one state. Oh, yeah, population is the only issue here. First of all, Canada's largely liberal. If Canada was a state, you Republicans wouldn't win anything. Think some fucking things out, for Christ's sake, you dumb motherfuckers. Yeah. Jesus Christ. Unfortunately, that clown's been blocked by courtesy of me, because I saw it come up and I said, fuck you. Downtown Dasher says Trump lies and won't make it better for the non-Trumpers. No, that's the thing we have to understand. There are going to be some things that are negative for us, probably more so for the Trumplafucks, because they don't see it coming. They aren't protecting themselves. But it's not going to be, I just don't think it's going to be as horrific as people think, because I just don't think he has the wherewithal to put anything together. Eric, you and I think tend to agree with that. He's incompetent.
He's completely incompetent. No, I was shaking my head laughing at my dog. But, he's completely incompetent. He can't put anything together. He renegotiated NAFTA, basically to get us NAFTA, then calls it the best trade deal he's ever had. And now he's talking about replacing the FBI director, Christopher Wray, with Kash Patel. Donald Trump put Christopher Wray in. It was his pick. He's completely incompetent. He doesn't know what the hell he's doing. And if he puts tariffs on Canada and Mexico, he's going to have to go back against his own trade deal. He just says shit to say shit. He doesn't have a clue how government works, what his powers and responsibilities are. He's going to try to do as little as possible, play as much golf as possible, and bill the taxpayer for as many trips to Mar-a-Lago as he possibly can.
Well, and TJ, one of the things I know about narcissists and what we saw in the first term that he had, it's funny, nobody in his cabinet can stand the fucker anymore. That might be why we've got such weak nominees now. But in the process, while this is all going on, Donald Trump is going to have problems with relationships. He's going to have problems with getting anything done because everybody around him will ultimately abandon him. That's happened before. That's what happens to narcissists. Anytime somebody does something he doesn't like, they're extradited out of the fucking whole group. He spends so much time working, trying to cover for his own ego. This is why he can't get anything done.
Yeah, well, look at the clown car of people that are being nominated by Donald Trump. It's ridiculous. Like, the only person that might have a shred of credibility is Pam Bondi. The rest of them, Pete Hegseth, all these people, look at what's coming out about Pete Hegseth. His own mother came out against him and said he abuses women. This is unprecedented for this country. I can't believe that we're at a point where we're considering the nomination of people who are traitors to this country. Tulsi Gabbard is a Russian asset. I can't wrap my head around the fact that we're to the point in this country where we're taking traitors and putting them in positions of power. That makes no sense to me. Absolutely, it makes no sense.
Well, TJ, I know you listened to that segment I did with Brian, the Trump humper.
I loved it.
You should have been. You should be able to understand it more now because people are absolutely
Yeah.
ignorant. One of the things that upset me more than anything when Donald Trump was first voted in the first time is it was exposed how many stupid people there are in this country. And I thought, that's terrible. How could it get worse? And then 2024, and he gets reelected, and I find out there's more stupid people than I even thought the first time around. It's very fucking disappointing.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I've been a follower on your podcast before Brian Wallenberg came on. And then I heard his podcast and I had to laugh to myself because he got defeated back then. The fact that he had the gonads come back and try to, push himself on to the podcast to try to exert his, win, I guess. He's exerting his win because that's all they could talk about on your guys' Zoom. I don't know if it was a podcast or a Zoom, but all he could talk about is how Trump won. He had nothing. He had no facts, nothing that he could stand up on two legs and defend himself on. And 45 minutes into it, he cowered away like the coward that he is and ran away because you were handing him his ass. I mean, he couldn't take it. He couldn't take it.
It wasn't hard.
He ran away.
It wasn't hard. I got somebody made this comment, Eric, and I'm going to give this to you because I think I might get angry if I answer it, and you're a little more even-tempered than I am. This is Downtown Dasher. Downtown Dasher is an ally here. I'm not trying to call them out. But this is a common attitude about this, and this attitude troubles me. Downtown Dasher says, we can criticize him all day, but he was voted in. Hopeless. Go ahead, Eric, before I do.
I mean, no, it's not hopeless. There's plenty of hope. First of all, we have the thinnest margin in the House of Representatives we've seen in almost 100 years. Last time it was this thin was around the Great Depression. They can only lose 3 votes to pass anything. It's not hopeless. 3 Republicans say no, bill's dead. Okay? And that's if everybody shows up. You have Hakeem Jeffries, the biggest thing he can do, 2 things. Get all Democrats in the House to vote together in lockstep. So if it's a bad bill that's going to hurt this country, you vote no. And make sure they all show up to vote. He's going to have a lot of power. In the Senate, they only have 53 seats. We still have the filibuster. They don't have the votes if they gut the filibuster, next time Democrats are in control, Democrats can push a whole bunch of stuff through. Republicans just coming out of 4 years in the minority, they're not going to want to get rid of the filibuster. So it's not going anywhere. Democrats are going to abuse the hell out of it. They don't have the votes to change the Constitution. And even if by some miracle they get through both chambers of Congress and get an amendment to the states, they don't have 38 states to agree with it.
And
there's plenty of hope.
I just want to say this to Downtown Dasher too. What good does it do to insult them? It's hopeless. Here's the deal. We need to take a page from the Republican Party. What did they do during the 4 years of Joe Biden's presidency? First of all, Congress blocked everything. They were obstructionist. And that's what Congress has to do. And that's what Eric is suggesting. We have enough power left to do those sort of things, shut all this stuff down. But in terms of insulting them, understand this. How did the Republicans win? Every day, all day, loud as you could be, Joe Biden's at fault for this. Kamala Harris is at fault for this. The Democrats are doing this. Most of it lies. So we have to take that same tact. We've got to carry the narrative. We've got to talk the shit. We've got to expose them, blame them for everything. And I know you might say, well, that's immature. It may be, but it fucking worked. So let's use it in return on them. They have the power, perceived power, in the House, the Senate, and the presidency. Anything that goes wrong, it's on them. and we need to blame them. We need to keep talking about it and take these dumb motherfuckers that don't know anything except the clips they hear now and again, and that's what they believe to be true. Take the megaphone or the platform away from the Republicans. So insulting them is not fruitless. It's what we need to do.
Yeah, that's a big chunk of it. We need to control the narrative a lot more. Short, simple messages. We need to take a page out of their book a little bit. When you find out that half this country reads and understands at a sixth grade level, Democrats need to tone their message down a little bit and start talking at that level. Instead of talking at the educated level they're at, they will get through a lot more. And then I talked about it on a TikTok I did. I talked about it on my live. Andy Beshear, the governor of Kentucky, he has been selected as the head of the Democratic Governors Conference for 2026. He's going to help them pick candidates to run in 2026 to win governorships and have their message. Okay, he won 2 terms in deep red Kentucky as a Democrat. So good pick. He's going to probably raise his platform maybe to the national stage for a presidential run. I don't know. But
he might very well do that.
Something he said in that was, we need to talk about jobs. We need to talk about education. We need to talk about healthcare. He was talking, without saying as much, he was talking about a New Deal style platform. And talking about just the everyday struggles. Quit talking about how good the stock market is and the national economy. Talk about kitchen table issues and get back to talking about things that working class people care about.
Hey,
Absolutely.
Eric, can I play devil's advocate for a second?
Go for it.
I agree with you on that, and I'm all for it because I'm a working class guy, you know. But the only problem I think that Andy Beshear has is that he's in the Forbes 400 richest billionaires, and I think that's part of the problem is that all these billionaires come out and they say, "Oh, I'm for the working man," or "I'm for this and I'm for that," but in the end, like, they don't know what it's like to work in my work boots one day in their life. You know what I mean? And so that's a hard sell, I think, to the American people, is that, you know, he wants to be for these things. And I agree with what you're saying and what he's saying, but, like, is it believable coming from a billionaire? That's my question.
Well, and that's another thing to consider with the shooting of the CEO and people upset about the wealthy at this point, and this might be the start of something like a revolution, not in the physical fighting part of it, but people are getting tired of the wealthy people, and that may work against them. I wanted to bring something up. Dick Baker has made a comment here, and he makes an excellent point. We were talking about tariffs earlier, and we were talking about Mexico and Canada. He says we have treaties. If he tariffs them, he would be breaking the law. And he's absolutely right. Eric, you talked about NAFTA and how Donald Trump changed a couple things, renamed it, and said it was the greatest thing in the world. Well, this is the deal he cut. And in that deal, it specifically says you can't impose tariffs on Mexico and Canada. And that would be breaking a federal law because it's a treaty or a tariff. So legally, he can't do that. Does that stop him? I mean, they're not going to indict him while he's president, but does somebody say, hey, you already cut that deal, you can't fucking do it?
I think it ends up in the federal courts, and the courts look at it and say, you're treaty bound, that says you can't. Or it breaks the treaty, and whatever the consequences are of breaking the treaty happen.
Well, I don't know that ends up in federal court, Eric, because it's an international treaty. So does that end up in federal court? I don't think so.
Maybe it ends up.
I don't honestly know.
And I don't know if the international court would have jurisdiction there. But if the public backlash is bad enough, again, Congress would have to step in and say, well, no, you can't put the tariffs on, and they, would have to restrict his ability to do any tariffs. the way I understand it is he can only put tariffs on up to a certain percentage and only for 5 months without Congress's approval. And at any point, Congress can take that approval away and say, hey, you put the tariffs on, we disagree, they're back off. And Congress might have to push back, and they're already pushing back against it. You know, he didn't get his pick for Senate minority leader or majority leader. He didn't get his pick, you know, for attorney general. They said, hell no to Matt Gaetz. There's some pushback against Pete Hegseth. They're already pushing back.
You know, the biggest problem, one of the biggest things that people are worried most about is this whole ranting about Social Security and Medicare. And if you listen to the media, they say they're going to cut Social Security, they're going to cut Medicare. And I just don't think it's that imminent. Going back to what Eric said, Congress has to come into play here. And to be honest with you, cutting Social Security and Medicare is political suicide. It affects so many people, and there is going to be outrage about it. And again, they still have to consider being reelected in 2026, not Trump, but Congress. I think it's something to be concerned about, but this isn't new. They talk about this every time they get any power. They talk about cutting Social Security. It really hasn't happened as of yet. I'd be surprised if they're actually able to pull something off. I don't see it getting through Congress. What do you guys think?
No, I don't think it gets through. As one of the things I say on my lives a lot is beyond getting reelected, baby boomers and older are the biggest and most reliable voting bloc for Republicans.
Right.
Typically. And they're the people on Social Security. A few of them may support it, but I don't think enough of them would support cutting it that it passes, because they know their constituents need to get reelected.
Right. Now, Judy's asking, could Biden dissolve the Supreme Court? And I don't believe that's possible. We're three separate branches of co-equal powers or co-equal branches. I don't think he could just dissolve it, even if he tried to use his immunity thing. What do you guys think?
Well, don't you guys agree that trying to dissolve Social Security would be political suicide for the Republican Party? I mean,
Absolutely.
That would be the death knell for them. How could they survive that? They can hardly survive now as it is. Like, they'll be lucky if they can win in the midterms, which is not going to happen historically. We know that's not factual, but they're going to lose the midterm elections. And I wouldn't be surprised if they lose the next two election cycles because of what they've done. So, yeah, like, Social Security is a big issue. You know, there's a lot of people that are concerned about that, whether it's boomers or Gen Xers or, you know, that's millions and millions of people. Like, them messing with Social Security is a death knell for them.
Well, look, of the three of us, I'm the only one that's actually on Social Security. And I'm just going to say this. If they take away my Social Security, you're going to find me on fucking Patreon. You're going to have to pay for this shit.
Hey, Mike, your wife has a pension. You'll be fine.
I got a pension. She's got a pension. We both have Social Security. We're fine. But you know, there's a lot of people who live strictly on Social Security. I remember my mom. She lived on Social Security, and she struggled every day. And I think part of the reason for her death at an early age was the stress she was feeling about lack of money. Of course, we helped her. My dad was a piece of shit, and he was of no use. But there are people struggling every day. And I'm fortunate not to be struggling, but I don't want to forget about those people who are, because I know a lot of people that struggle every day. And, you know, there should come a time in your life, especially when you get older, where you can just relax and get rid of the stress. But even still, there are people in their 70s that have to worry, and then you throw this on the fucking table, and they worry even more. I take personal offense to this shit.
Well, Mike, look at Ed. That will hurt Ed a lot if he loses Social Security.
Well, yeah. I mean, Ed's got some Ed's doing okay, but he's 75 years old. What's Ed supposed to get a fucking job? I mean, I barely get him to come every fucking Friday on the show. Jesus Christ.
Well, yeah. As far as like, dissolving Social Security, that would be the death knell of the Republicans. It would cost them beyond just one or two election cycles. It would cost them multiple cycles, at least.
But if I know that and you know that, why does the media keep coming out like it's inevitable that they're going to cut Social Security and Medicare? This is my problem with the media. They're constantly trying to scare people, and people who are not informed enough do get scared, and that's a horrible thing that the media is doing, and this is what pisses me off about them.
Yeah, the media doesn't they do it. They know what they're doing because even though people like Joe Scarborough has lost like more than half of his viewership at this point, bad enough that he went out and attacked his viewers on air or his former viewers on air.
Yeah, I'm happy about that.
Reaction.
I'm happy
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah, but they're still playing the same old game. They're playing scare politics, where they drug up these stories, and instead of giving them the facts of, hey, they are talking about it, but it probably won't happen, and comforting people, oh my God, it's inevitable, it's going to happen, keep tuning in, keep coming back, we'll keep you updated because this is coming, what are you going to do? So people are always on the edge of their seat and they're scared.
I'm convinced the media, because they don't care about the country, they don't care about the people in the country, they're always looking for that next big story. Since we have a 24-hour cycle now on news, like when Joe Biden was thinking about stepping aside, they didn't care what effect it would have on the country. They just wanted that big news story. When one guy shoots a CEO in the city of New York, it's all day, every day they're talking about it. They're looking for that next big story. And they see in Donald Trump a treasure trove of fucked up stories. And it's about getting audiences and making money. But here's the fucking thing. They're losing their audience now. So do they change it up or do they continue to do what they fucking do?
I think they keep doing what they're doing for a while because that's what's obvious that they haven't learned yet. And then once they learn their lesson, then they'll make that switch. But until then, they're going to be doing the same thing up until that point.
Well, I told Mike yesterday or today that I deleted all my mainstream media apps off my phone, and everybody should do that. Stop listening to mainstream media. I got Reuters, I got Politico, I got AP, which I'm kind of on the fence about, and I got NPR. And but MSNBC, CNN, Fox News, all these other ones, we need to stop listening to them and drive them into poverty. That's the only way they're going to get the message.
Okay, I got one for you here. I always hear this, and I always get frustrated when I hear this, but I want you guys to answer this.
Okay.
Self-Made says he's going to suspend the midterms with an executive order. It's not going to happen.
Nope.
Okay.
It's not going to happen.
There
No.
will be midterms. You can't override the Constitution with an executive order.
That's
There
a
will
joke.
be a midterm. They don't have the votes to amend the Constitution. They just
Like, was
don't.
that Brian Wallenberg that said that?
No. I think it's an ally, and I don't want to make fun of that person. The point of this is there's so much misinformation. There are good people that are just terrified. They're not trying to. I don't think this person was trying to suggest that's their strategy. I think they're genuinely scared about it because I talk to a lot of people who are frightened about it. And what you have to understand, that's something thrown out in the fucking ether by Republicans. And they want you to believe that. You got to stop believing the bullshit. That's not going to happen.
Yeah, I can understand that. I totally can. And like everyone that's in fear right now, you don't have to be in fear because Donald Trump has no power to change the Constitution. It's not going to happen. That can't happen. So the midterm elections have to happen. He doesn't have the power to. It would take 3/4 of the states and 3/4 of Congress to amend the Constitution. That's not going to happen. It's not in the realm of reality. So everyone,
No.
who's fearful right now about these things happening, please just relax and calm down, because that's not going to be a thing. It's not in the realm of reality.
And you have to understand that is the strategy of these people, is
Yes.
to make people scared. Their whole thing is about fear. If you're scared, then they're winning. That's why instead of being scared, we've got to carry the narrative. We've got to be tough. We've got to be pushing back. Everybody's concerned about things that are uncertain. We know what's certain. He is going to be elected. He's going to be inaugurated president, say, for some crazy fucking thing happening. We can't worry about the things that might be. We got to worry about what we do next. And we've got to be assertive, aggressive, and we got to be proactive about it. We got to fight against it and push him in every way. And because he's a weak, simple-minded fuck, it won't be as hard as you think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree with that. I agree with that 100%.
You're 100% right. And the compound on what you guys were saying about there, being elections and he doesn't have the power to override the Constitution. One thing I see in almost every one of my lives is somebody asking about, well, what if he just doesn't leave the White House after his 4 years are up, assuming he lives that long,
He gets evicted.
assuming he's, even healthy enough, or he hasn't been removed by the 25th Amendment, hasn't been removed by an impeachment, whatever. If he doesn't leave the presidency come January 20th, 12 noon in 2029, whoever is standing there taking the oath of office, wherever they are taking the oath of office, becomes president. If they impeach and remove him, the minute Congress says you are out as of this point, and Vance takes the oath of office, he's the president. He has all the authority. Donald Trump can sit his butt in the Oval Office all he wants and try to not leave the residence and say, I'm staying put, I'm the president. It doesn't give him the powers anymore. It will be whoever is taking the oath of office at that point.
And once whoever's the president, the Secret Service will drag his orange ass out the fucking building. Here's a Trump humper that comes in. We get them from time to time. But this is the intellect that we're talking about. He's basically saying, you sound like a Trump hater. You don't know what you're talking about. Oh, I'd love to get you on a podcast because you sound like a special kind of dumb motherfucker. Am I a Trump hater? Well, let's see. He's been adjudicated for rape. He's been convicted 34 times. He's screwed up the country. He's been impeached twice. He's racist, misogynistic, anti-Semitic, among other things. Yeah, I think I'm justified in hating Trump. And I do know what I'm talking about. You don't. Otherwise, you would have said something of substance instead of some fourth grade bullshit. Excuse me for... By the way, I blocked him first before I did that, so I'm not stupid.
Yeah.
Hey, could I take a point of personal privilege real quick?
Sure.
Just real quick. If anybody in this live could follow me, that'd be great, because I can't use video unless I have 1,000 followers, and I don't have 1,000 followers. So anyone who's in this podcast or in this TikTok, that could follow me so I can get where I can be on video, that would be awesome if you follow me. So thank you.
Yeah, definitely follow TJ the Plumber 2.0 and Analytical Iowan Eric if you want to keep up to date with the news and get all the details. I'm a big picture guy. Eric deals with the details, and I get a lot of information from him. If you're not following Analytical Iowan, you should be following. And if you're not watching the Rational Boomer podcast, what the fuck is wrong with you? I'm on every goddamn day. You don't have to watch every day, but just check it out. And if you just want to feel better, listen to the opposition extra I just did, where I whoop ass on a Trumplafuck. It'll make you feel better. Trust me.
Can we talk about that?
Sure.
Let's talk about it, because it was amazing.
It wasn't amazing. It was easy, but
Well,
I needed that way to get it out of my system.
Yeah. It's really uncanny, because Brian Wallenberg, I remember when he was first on the podcast, which was probably in 2020 during COVID. It was a long time ago.
A
And
long time ago.
and you know, you handed him his ass in the original podcast. So he has this renewed I don't know what you say, this
He was kind
renewed
of zesty. He was kind of
yeah,
zesty. He had this new zest because Donald Trump
yes,
won, and he
yes.
figured I'd be bending my knee and he could lord it over me. It didn't work out that well.
No. And you did exactly what you had to do. Like it couldn't have been done better. He came with his bullshit, no facts, no statistics about anything that he's bringing to the table, and you totally defeated him and embarrassed him that he couldn't even make it 45 minutes without dropping off
Yeah.
the Zoom.
And
That
I figured he'd email me and say, "Well, something happened, some technical thing." Because the first time I was on his show, prior to being on my show, we talked about 5-10 minutes and it didn't go well, and he had technical difficulties. I'll get back to you, Mike. I said, "Well, why don't you come on my show?" Okay, that was ill-advised, but he did it anyway. He got his ass kicked, and I'll be honest with you, I've known this guy for a long time. He was a student at a radio program where I was working at the radio station, and I knew the kid. And he was kind of a sad sack, simple fuck that, put it this way, he went through the program and never could get a job in radio. So I knew three things. First of all, he's on the wrong side of history. Second of all, he's dumb as fuck. Third of all, he's not very good at what he does. I mean, me going in is like somebody who knows what they're doing up against a guy who's a fucking toddler mentally. It wasn't a fair fight. I knew it wasn't going to be a fair fight. And my wife said she felt sorry for him. I go, "No, listen, man, I've gone through this for 4 years. I'm letting all my anger out. I'm going to hammer this little fucking guy, and I don't care what it looks like. I'm doing this for me. And if anybody else gets something good out of it, good, but I'm doing it for me. My fucking show, I'm going to do what I want to do."
and I get it, Mike, that you felt bad in the past that you put the hammer down on some of these people, but we're at the point now where we can't do that. We have to
No.
get down in the mud and fight them all the way over the finish line because they're not going to understand anything else but the same treatment that they give to us.
Yeah, and I think a lot of Democrats they're said that they take the higher road, and that doesn't work when you're going up against a bully who's fighting in the mud. But I think a lot of people are afraid of conflict. I know a lot of people who listen to whenever I talk to a Trump fuck, they go, "Oh, it's so hard for me to listen to it," and I understand that. The one benefit I have is I don't mind fucking conflict, especially when I when I know I'm right. I'll fight you to the fucking end, and I don't care if it's embarrassing for that person or not. At this point, if you're trying to damage this country and you're trying to damage democracy, you're in essence damaging things for my kids and my grandkids. You want to fucking fight for me, my wife, or anybody else, fuck with our kids and our grandkids. You're
Yeah.
going to get fucked up in the end. And I don't give a shit if you're begging for mercy. This is how
Absolutely.
we've got to think.
Absolutely. What say you, Eric?
Well, I haven't seen that particular podcast, but as far as getting down in the mud and fighting with them, the era of when they go low, we go high hasn't worked. And as I talked about earlier, when you're dealing with people who half the country or roughly is dealing at a sixth grade level, you got to act at that sixth grade level.
Right.
You got to talk to them at their level. You got to get down and you got to, approach them that way. So if we're out here getting the message out in a way that's easy to understand, and we're doing the attack politics like that worked for their side, maybe we get through to some people and it works on our side. But we can't roll over and just die ahead of time and say, well, we got to take the high road and just give up on it.
I'm pretty even-tempered. I don't yell and scream, but I will just give this warning to Trump fucks in the future. I'm going to steal your lunch. I'm going to eat your fucking lunch, and then I'm going to kick you in the nuts to send you off, because there is no limits now. You guys want to fight, we will fucking fight. If that's what it's going to take to save democracy in this country, We'll do whatever we have to do. You guys are younger guys. I'm 64 years old. I don't have a lot of fucking time. I need to make hay while the sun shines and I still got breath in my lungs. So I got a short time and I'm impatient at this point. So we've got to ramp it up a little bit and kick some ass.
I agree. I'm a Gen Xer and Eric's a millennial, so we need to stick together. That's all we can do.
Yeah, I'm on the upper end of the millennials. I'm almost a Gen Xer. I lean more Gen X myself. And I find myself siding with Gen X a lot of times with personality. But we have to get down. We have to get in the mud. We have to mix it up. And Democrats need to approach this with a better message. We need to get our message out there. And one of my biggest complaints about Democrats in general is they've always kind of relied on this idea that they're going to let their achievements speak for themselves. They don't gloat and brag and do everything. Joe Biden, it would have been the perfect president to go back to FDR-style fireside chats and do a weekly fireside podcast, and where he was talking to the American people about all of the good things and all of his accomplishments week after week after week. It would have been great. We need to do something like that where we're crowing from the rooftops about all the things we get done for people and not just sit back, do it, and hope they see that we passed it for them and we did that.
Right. Well, you know, there's somebody here, Colleen, who's saying we're not going back, and she's echoing what Kamala Harris said. And just because Kamala Harris wasn't elected, I think that should still be the battle cry. Donald Trump may be entering the Oval Office, but that doesn't mean we're going to accept it and roll over and show our bellies so they can do whatever they want. They're not very bright. They aren't as strong as they think, and we aren't going to go back. We're going to kick some ass along the way. And regardless of what happens, they're going to feel some pain between now and the time they leave fucking office. I'm committed to that, and hopefully a lot of people will be.
Yeah, we can't go back. We have to pick up that rally cry. And whoever the Democrats run going forward, for whether that's for governor of varying states, like in 2026, my governor here in Iowa is up for election. They need to put a good governor up for the Democrats and hope we can win. But we can't go back. And we need to make that our rallying cry all the way through. And if Kamala Harris is the nominee in 2028, okay, I'm back behind her 100%. I don't care who it is for the most part. But we do have to be careful with some of our Democrats. There was just a Democratic, it was either a state senator or a representative for Florida. One is a Democrat, just won re-election, is now completely switched parties, is now a Republican. So we got to make sure, though, that we're watching for that, too. But we can't go back. We have to rally around our ideals and our principles and put up one hell of a fight.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that, Eric. But here's the one thing that I'm going to say is that I'm sorry, I'm just jumping back into this because I was blocking some Trump folks. I was blocking a couple of folks from getting in here. But the thing is that one thing we have to recognize is that the Democratic Party needs to change their message because they're losing middle class, working class voters. And they need to redirect their message and focus on those issues because if they don't, that's going to be another loss for us in 2028. They need to focus on the issues of the middle class people in this country, and they've focused on other issues that are smaller than what the middle class majority is. So until they change that tune, it's going to be a problem, and they need to start, focusing on that and being more pro-worker, more like Joe Biden was the best. I mean, he really did a lot for labor unions. And that was part of the problem is that they didn't focus on that, and until they do that, it's going to be an issue.
All right, guys, I'm going to take a risk here. I'm going to take a risk. Here. we could use a woman's voice in this whole thing.
Well, I am a mod, so if there's a problem,
Good point. But I have something. I have a few people in here. Um, okay, this is. I'm going to accept somebody in. It's Dale, and we'll see what she does. I'm getting a little cocky here. You know, I kicked a Trump fuck's ass. And Dale enters the fray here. Dale, how you doing? I see her face. I see her picture. Is Dale with us? Or maybe
Dale.
she doesn't know. Well, I tell you what, we'll keep talking. If Dale, just jump in anytime if you're here. See, this is what I mean. If I don't know somebody, I don't know what's going on, and maybe she doesn't realize that she's on. I'll ask her one more time. Dale, talk. Are you there?
Dale.
All right. Well, we'll go on. She'll come in when she wants, but I think McElbrisky says this: we have to stop following norms. Republicans don't. We need to fight dirty, and that's the point. We've always been politicians always been hemmed in by these norms. They're not laws, they're not rules, they're norms, what normal people would do. Donald Trump stepped all over all of those norms. We don't need to follow norms anymore because norms no longer fucking exist. That's the thing the Republicans don't understand. They do something fucked up. That means the Democrats can do something fucked up too. It's just that the Democrats try to think of themselves as above it. That has to change, like we were talking about. We have to give them exactly what they give us. Otherwise, we'll never win. We can't. They cheat, and we've got to fight against that cheating.
Yeah. We have to push back against the norms, be willing to buck them, just like, Joe Biden pardoning Hunter. That was bucking a norm. And now Republicans are clutching their pearls. Oh my God. How dare he buck that norm of doing that? And
Right.
Democrats need to be willing to do it. But I have said, and I think what you're going to see out of this is some of those norms are going to end up getting codified after Donald Trump is out of office in laws, in amendments, things like that. And
I agree.
you're going to see a lot of things in response to a second Trump administration after the fact, because Democrats are responsive. They're never preventative. They wait until after it happens and they try to fix it. They're not the best at looking forward and trying to prevent things ahead of time.
Hey, Mike. Is
Yeah.
is L requesting? She's a female.
Who?
L. The letter L, like Leo.
Yeah. Should I go with her?
I'd try it and we'll see how it goes.
Okay. We'll see if Elle shows up.
Hello.
Dale isn't there. Hello, Elle. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Not too bad. Now, don't make me regret this.
I won't.
I picked people that when I first did a live, I said, yeah, I'll pick fucking anybody. And then, of course, we get goofballs. Now, Elle, you don't sound like a goofball. So welcome to the fray here.
Well, thank you. I just logged on to TikTok and I've been listening to what you guys have been saying. And, I think after, you're saying the Democrats need to get away from the norm. And I agree with that 100% because we're too damn nice. But I think once the next 4 years is done, we're not going to have a middle class. We're not going to have a lower class. We are going to be living in the streets. We're going to be in soup lines. It's going to be the depression once he gets those tariffs going and cutting Social Security and cutting veterans and everything else. He is getting,
Now-
if that stuff goes through, we are screwed. We're not going to have a country
Now-
left.
Well, here's the thing, Al. And I understand your point of view. There's a lot of people that are terrified about what's going to happen. You have kind of a doomsday scenario. But but you're giving Donald Trump too much credit that he can just do whatever he wants. Now, with regards to the tariffs, he can institute or impose a tariff, but it's a temporary thing. It has to go through Congress. Now, he might put it up for a month or two, but Congress is likely going to take it down because it's going to destroy the economy. And the Republicans that have to get reelected in 2026 are never going to tolerate that. He doesn't get
That's
to
true.
make sweeping choices, and then we're stuck with it. Donald Trump is going to get pushback from his own Republican Party. And if he continues to do stuff like that, do not be surprised if the Republicans themselves try to impeach him. Eric, what would you tell this young woman?
The same thing I've been saying a lot, and I said it earlier, when it comes to cutting veterans benefits, cutting Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. Congressional Republicans, there's some of them talking about it, but their margins are so thin that if they don't have everybody on board, it's not passing, which means they're going to need Democrats. And Democrats aren't getting on board with that shit. So they're going to say, hey, keep the funding there. And besides that, the biggest voting bloc for Republicans, the biggest numbers and the most consistent are boomers and anybody older than boomers that vote Republican. And if they cut out the Social Security for their own voting base, those people who show up every time, every special election, anytime there's a chance to vote, they're not going to come back and vote for them.
So,
Right.
El,
And
what I
you know-
need you to do, El, is not be terrified, be pissed off.
I am pissed. I'm
Okay,
really
good.
pissed. Because I'm pissed because no one came out to vote like they should have.
Right? I
Number
agree.
one. And now we're in this big mess with this idiot. And another thing that I think might happen, and I don't know how you feel about this, and I haven't heard anybody say too much about this, so I wanted to kind of get your feel on it. I think that because Trump is losing it, we all know this.
Yeah.
So I think JD is going to do a 25th Amendment, get him out, and then we have to deal with him. And I think he's evil in a different way than Trump. I think he's more, I don't know. I don't know if he's more heartless than Trump. I don't know. I don't trust the man. I don't trust any of them, but
Well, here's the thing
What's your
about JD
thoughts?
Vance, though. JD Vance is not a good guy. He is potentially dangerous, but he's a much weaker person. I mean, we haven't even seen him for fucking 2 months. Where the hell is he? The thing about it is he's a younger man, and if they get rid of Donald Trump, they're basically saying Donald Trump's shit isn't working. So, because of his actions with Donald Trump, 1 minute he says he's Hitler, next minute he thinks he's God's gift to the world. He's a very malleable guy. He'll do whatever he's told to do in order to maintain power or money or popularity, whatever. He will not be a good president if he's in, but will be better off than Donald Trump because Donald Trump cannot be controlled. JD Vance will be controlled by the Republican Party. And they're going to try to tone things down a little bit because they know going the way Donald Trump wants to go is going to cost them elections, certainly in the midterm and maybe in 2028. So they're going to try to mold him into a more normal human being, even though he's not. So I hope they get rid of Donald Trump. I don't know if it'll be the 25th Amendment, impeachment, or some other way. I mean, Republicans are fucking crazy. You don't know what they're going to do. So I'm worried about JD Vance, but I'd rather see JD Vance than Donald Trump if we're going to be stuck with some Republican at this point. It's not going to be great, but it'll be less volatile, I think. What do you
don't
think,
we-
Eric? No, go ahead, Lyle. Go ahead,
Well,
Al.
don't you think that he's more into the Heritage Foundation, than Trump? I mean, I think Trump's more involved in what he's letting on. He lies all the time. You can't trust a word he says.
Right.
But I think JD wrote some of it. He wrote like the first part of it. I can't.
Well, I think he is, but he, even as president, he doesn't have the power to enact it. He still needs Congress to support him. And like with Medicare or Social Security, that's a hard sell for Republicans because that's going to crucify them. if they accept that. I'm not saying they're not going to try to do something like make it an older, you got to be older to get Social Security. I just think Donald Trump just comes with shit out of his ass and he says it and it
Yeah.
causes problems. You're not going to
Yeah.
get that out of JD Vance because John Thune and some of the people in the House are going to say, JD, just chill the fuck out. We're going to try to win an election here. So it will be toned down some. I think you're right. He's just as evil. He is about 20 Project 2025, but he can't do it on his own. He needs help from the Republicans. And if it's bad for business, Republicans ain't going to fucking do it.
Well, if they pull Social Security and Medicare, financially, my household is screwed.
A lot of households are screwed. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I mean, at least I'm working, but you know, it, but we need that Social Security that my husband has. He just turned, well, he's on it for disability, but he just turned 66. So he's been on it a couple of years, just regular now.
Right.
But with his illnesses and his health and stuff, I can't, we got to have Medicare,
Al,
even though I have insurance, but
Al, I wouldn't
I won't
worry about
retire.
that. I wouldn't worry about that too much. I don't think that existing payouts are going to be compromised. What they're going to try to do is they're going to try to change the eligibility so that people like me can't collect Social Security till we're 75 rather than 69 or whatever it is. So I think you're probably safe, but the people that are coming behind, your husband are going to be compromised with the Republican platform.
Yeah. Yeah, because
Yeah, absolutely.
I
They'll do something about the
year or
future.
so, and I don't see it happening now. I'm gonna have to wait till I'm 65. I can't do it when I'm 62.
Well, as far as Social Security, I don't think they're going to make a lot of changes because, as I've said, they need to get reelected. So they're going to be very careful. TJ's probably right. It's going to be younger people that are going to feel the brunt of it. It might not even be people like me in their 40s. It might be, well, if you're 18 right now, you're not going to be able, they're going to extend that or something
Right.
if they make any changes. But as far as JD Vance and whether or not he's worse than Trump, one of the things I've been saying is how JD Vance becomes president is going to make a difference on what kind of a president he is. If Republicans impeach and remove Trump and Vance becomes president that way, you know damn well he's toeing the line. If Trump dies or JD Vance uses the 25th Amendment, maybe he's a little more bold. But if they get to the point where Republicans say, yeah, you're out of here, he's going to walk a line and he won't be nearly as bad. But he's going to also carry the stink of Trump with him into the 28 election. And it's going to be a big helping hand for Democrats there.
Absolutely. You're absolutely right about
No,
that.
I
He
agree
won't
with
be
you
able
on
to
that.
wash it.
Yeah, I think you're right on that. It's it's going to be interesting to see what happens, and with these people that voted for him, they're telling us, oh, yay, we won, you lost, all that crap, and if these tariffs come in and things go sky high, it's going to hurt us financially, but I'm going to love it just for the fact that it's going to affect them so much because they think he's God.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's exactly right, and that's something we have to keep in mind. I'm a little different guy than a lot of people. Some people say I hate to say I told you so. I fucking love it, and when
Oh, I
those
do
people
too.
fail, I'm going to be all over their shit, and I'm going to laugh. I'm going to giggle my ass off when somebody like Brian, who was the Trump-the-fuck we talked to, when they're struggling, I'm going to laugh because you did it to yourself. You deserve it at this point. But the only unfortunate part is there will be some people that didn't vote for him that will suffer too.
Oh,
And that's where
absolutely.
we got to come into play. We got to come into play and help protect those people that are innocent of this whole situation. And we got to kind of band together and be there to help out one way or another.
Yeah, I was talking to my boss today, and she doesn't watch the news. She didn't know all this stuff was going down. She was actually shocked. And she's like, "Are you sure?" And I'm like, "Yes. Yes, I'm sure." You know, he wants to put tariffs on. This is what he wants to do. This is what they're planning. This is what, they're going to cut they want to cut Social Security and Medicare and Medicaid and we work with a lot of homeless people who depend on Medicaid and food stamps and that, you know, and it just makes me sick if they even touch any of that. I can't even imagine being that heartless to people.
Well, Al, I don't mean to scare you. I don't mean to scare you about anything, but when Trump gets into office, there's going to be a lot of cuts, and like Title IX is going to be one of the big cuts, and
Yeah.
they're going to cut also funding for the business that you're in with helping homeless people, all the grant money. That's all going to disappear. Like there's people that work in my area for helping immigration, and they've all been on notice that they're out of a job come January 1st, basically. So all that stuff's going to be cut. It's an unfortunate reality because how cruel and evil what the Republican Party is, but those programs are going to be cut, and it makes me hurt in my heart that those things are going to be.
Yeah, I just saw, I'm in Utah, and I just saw the governor of Utah is for them to deport the immigrants because it's going to save the state money. Well, the Mormon church pumps so damn much money into this state that it's not going to hurt the state if they're here. You know, I think it's just cruel. And I actually work in the criminal justice system. So, you know, I will see, the cuts for people who need drug treatment and people that need legal defenders and, things like that. I know that's going to come. And hopefully the state will keep funding us. In our county.
Utah's an interesting state. You got the likes
you're
of
telling
Mike
me.
Lee there. This Trumplefuck that I talked to yesterday or today, whenever the fuck it was, he's living in Utah. He's from Minnesota originally, but he lives in Utah. I used to live in Arizona, and I had to deal with it was a weird situation. I lived in northern Arizona, small town. The town was Navajo and Mormon. Navajo
Yeah.
and Mormon. My landlord, my boss, they were all Mormon. And I got to say, they were they were very nice to me. The Navajo people are wonderful. The Mormon people, they're nice to your face.
Well,
Because
what
if
they
you're not a
do,
Mormon, you ain't shit.
what they do is they will steal from you Monday through Saturday and repent on Sunday.
Right.
And
Exactly.
yeah, I know. I grew up here, and I'm not fond of the Mormon Church. In fact, when the missionaries they'll come to my house, even though I'm still on the rolls for the church. They'll come to my house, and I tell them, I don't want to join your cult. Get the hell out of my house. Go.
I got to tell you a story. When I lived in northern Arizona and the Mormons were there, my boss was a Mormon, I would get those missionaries coming to my apartment. Now, keep in mind, I'm 20 years old at the time. I'm kind of a smart ass. I drink beer. I really don't fit into that whole scene where I was living. And I tried to be nice up until the last month before I was leaving to come back home to Minnesota. And here's what I know about Mormons when they come try to sell you something. They're waiting for you to say something about your Catholic religion or your Lutheran religion because they always have these pat answers,
Oh, yeah.
And so I knew they would always have a pat answer. So I said, I'm going to invite them in and I'm going to tell them some shit they don't have pat answers for that they've never heard before and just see what the fuck they do. So they come to the door and they say, yeah, we'd like to talk to you about the Mormon. I go, yeah, come on in. You want a beer? Because I'm drinking a beer at the time. And of course, they don't want a beer. And they sit down and they say, they start selling me. I go, listen, man, I don't really have any interest in this. I have my own beliefs. Oh, really? What are your beliefs? You don't want to hear it. It's no big. No, we want to hear your beliefs. Okay, here's the deal. My belief is that I am the only one that exists. Everything around me, you included, is just my imagination. You're here because I want you here. I'm here because I want to be here. And tomorrow, who knows where the fuck I'm going to be. And they just looked at me like, you're crazy. That's the first time a Mormon has ever looked at some other guy and said, that motherfucker's crazy. But they never bothered me again.
Oh yeah. What? Since I told him I'm not, I don't want to be in their cult. I haven't had any stop at my house since. We had a neighbor that when we moved here that kept trying to get my husband to church, and all of a sudden I hear my husband say, he was at the front door, and I hear him say, fuck you. If you ever come to my house again, I'm going to call the police. Fuck you. And he slammed the door. And I'm like, was that the bishopric? And he said, no, it was a neighbor. He wanted me to go to church. And I just was like, okay. Yeah. But yeah,
You
that's
know
how
what,
you have to
though?
be with them. Huh?
My wife was having
Appropriate.
me my wife watches these Real Housewives shows,
Yeah.
and somebody told her you got to watch the Real Housewives show from Utah. I
Oh,
didn't know
God.
there was one, Provo or
Yeah.
where, Salt Lake or whatever.
Yeah.
And these women were just as nasty and piggish as New York or New Jersey. They're out drinking and going crazy. And I knew some Mormons when I was young and I was living in this place. And there were Mormons that I knew that were cool that I kind of hung out with, but they were known as Jack Mormons, meaning
Yeah.
we were born Mormon, but we don't act like Mormons. It was
Right. Yep.
interesting. I have to say, well, all the time I was there, even the normal Mormons, the actual Mormons, were very friendly to me. But I know they didn't like me because I grew up Lutheran. They would be happy if I converted, married one of their daughters.
One or two of them.
Did we lose Mike?
Mike froze up. So
Yep. He's gross.
we'll just keep going on. What's your experience like post election with the feeling on the ground where you're at on how people voted? Do you think that the Mormon Church had a big influence on how the election turned out, or no?
For Utah, absolutely. They have gerrymandered this state so bad. Salt Lake County is where I live, and like Salt Lake City is pretty blue, but when you go down up north, farther up north and farther south down, it gets red. And they've like right in the middle,
Hold on,
right
Elise.
down
Oh, are you
the
there, Al?
middle. I'm sorry?
No, for about 45 seconds there, I wasn't hearing anybody. I thought I got shut down.
No,
No.
no. I took over the TikTok because you disappeared.
Yeah, they've split it like right in half, Salt Lake right in half. And then my district goes from like the middle of Salt Lake clear down about 100 miles in once you get past like Provo where BYU is,
Yep.
it gets really rural, and that's where the really Trumpers, they have their signs and their flags and all that crap. And they have put us with them so a Democrat cannot win the seat now in my district.
Oh, it's all
Wow.
gerrymandered.
Oh, it's terrible. It's horrible how they what they did, and this is what again, this is what Utah is. So they had on the ballot for us to vote if we wanted some like a group that's not involved in the politic part to redraw the lines for the seats and all that. And they had the maps up and stuff, and they took it up to legislation, and they didn't like it, so they made their own. And that's what happened.
Well, wouldn't your Supreme Court in your state like have some say in how your legislative maps are drawn?
Our Mormon
No.
Supreme Court? No.
Okay, well that's fair.
No. You know, when the same-sex marriage was going on, the Mormon Church gave California, I could be wrong, $20 million to help it not pass. And it's like there's just no separation of church and state here. The bishops, I think, tell them, like in church, when they're in their Relief Society or whatever the hell they do, how they need to vote. And I really believe that because it's so red here. I didn't dare this election put any signs in my yard because they're crazy and you just don't know what they're going to do if they see.
Did you feel like there was going to be retribution against you if you put a Harris Wall sign in your yard?
Yeah, I even have a Kamala shirt. I didn't wear it out of the house because they're just, I didn't see a lot of the big trucks with the flags on them too much up here in Salt Lake, but you just never know because people drive, up to Salt Lake to work, and you just never know if they're going to drive through your neighborhood and see your signs, if if they do a construction or home repair or whatever. You just don't know. And then I didn't want to wear anything because I don't want people to start just being just big asshole to me because I don't agree with him on Trump. I mean, I did have one of my clients come in to see me, and he had on a fuck Trump shirt with Trump flipping the bird. And I said, really? You're wearing that outside? And he says, I don't care. Fuck Harris. And I said, well, fuck Trump. I said, so, yeah.
But it sounds like a productive conversation.
Yeah.
He was cool. I mean, wouldn't have said that to anybody, but we have a really good rapport and stuff. And he just laughed when I said that. We were just laughing about it. But I was just like, I can't believe you're wearing that shirt out. But again, it's Salt Lake. People are Republican up here.
One time I was I was visiting a friend, and I had my young son with me. He was about 14 at the time. We're walking through Salt Lake. I'm waiting for somebody. I got to meet somebody, and we're walking around Salt Lake. And Salt Lake's not that big a town, really. At least it wasn't when I was there. And we're walking by the big church, whatever the fuck they call it.
The temple?
And the temple. And this absolutely adorable young girl about 15 or 16 or 17 comes up and starts talking to my son. And my son's looking at me, look at this cute girl's talking to me. I'm going, dude, she's not interested unless you convert. She's
Run.
trying to sell you something. And he felt so
Run.
bad. He thought he was this chick magnet. And in fact, he was being recruited into what may have been a cult. So we pulled him out of that.
No,
went down the road.
Yeah, my brother went on a mission, and while he was on his mission, he went to Tahiti. And when he was on his mission is when he really figured out what it really is a cult. It really is. And I just don't, I just personally, this is just my belief. I don't believe it in organized religion, any of it. I don't care what religion it is because like the Islam and that, it's all about war, and there's been wars over it and people killed over it and stuff. And I just, I don't think you need to be organized. You can still have your faith, you can still believe in God, you can still be a good person and have morals and everything. I just don't think you need to have a organized religion to have that.
Yeah, no, I agree.
So.
I got to tell you, I'm going to have to wrap this up because I
Oh,
think I
yep.
lost my internet and I'm on a signal that's shitty in my condo here. So that may be
All
why I'm
right.
freezing up and stuff like that. Elle, thank you for joining us. I appreciate that. I'm glad to have met you.
Yeah, I watch your videos. I love your videos. They make me laugh. They're hilarious. I love them.
Yeah. Well, they make you laugh. They piss off a lot of Republicans. So
Well,
I win
that's
both
good.
ways.
Good job.
Thank you, Elle. And TJ the plumber, thanks for all your help as normal. We got to stay on a long time, so you're doing a good job. So is Gray Captain. And Eric, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
It's nice
Thanks,
meeting
Mike.
you guys.
Thanks so much.
Thanks. You guys have
We'll
a good
be,
night.
you too. We'll be back again soon doing more lives and maybe even do some with other people, and that'll be entertaining. So
Awesome.
thank you all for joining us. Thank you, TJ. Thank you, Eric. Thank you, Elle. We will talk to you again soon.